This is Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready. We're about to live in your head rent-free.
Hello, Otter Rights. This is episode 235.
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
I'm Francis.
I am Marcus.
And I'm Andre.
We're getting this down, boys. We finally got this right.
Of course, it's all going to get screwed up when Cajun comes back.
That's right. He's usually pretty.
He's always last.
Pretty good.
That's
He's
true,
always
yeah.
last.
Yeah.
It works out very, very well. Yeah, he's still out selling farm equipment this time. So we wish him well and great success on that. But it's the five of us here.
Is that a euphemism?
No, that was actually the truth.
That's a valid question.
A
Yes,
valid
it is
question.
a valid question for Cajun.
Yeah,
That's right. It's a valid question, but no, this was actually the truth. So he told me anyway, and I don't.
Yeah.
Do any of y'all know anybody that plays guitar? I think we need to have somebody play a live rendition of the bumper.
Oh, that would be awesome.
My sister's husband plays guitar.
Does he have electric guitar?
Yeah, he plays in a band. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I totally forgot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he
right.
does that. Yeah, so he could. I'm sure he could do that. He's self-taught. He's
And his
not
husband,
here.
right?
That's right. Yeah. He's got the whole
Junie?
thing. Junie, that's right. Yeah,
Junie, yeah.
he's got this whole thing down. Yeah, so he could easily do
We
that.
could plug him into the board too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It'll
He
take.
Play
It'll take it.
a live bumper.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
That would be awesome.
I'm sure I
Need
could
a
talk
lot.
him into it. Yeah, he's a good guy, so we can make
Yeah.
that happen. So
But the question is, will people at home be able to tell the difference between live and Memorex?
Well, live or digital.
no,
I think so because Robert would do his part live.
I think you were
Yes, I would
very
have to
good
do
in
my part
reaching
live,
back
yes.
to that marvelous era that we were all part of, the cassette era. That
Yes.
That's true.
that long past.
Classic rewind from. You should be on the Sirius XM.
The
classic
the
rewind.
glass of
120
wine and
minutes
the
from
speakers.
MTV, man. 120 minutes.
Absolutely, that's good stuff. But we're rabbit holing already, guys. I
Yes.
guess I need to bring us
Give
back.
it to it. Give us.
Yeah.
Give
It's
it.
That was Andre's fault this time.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
it was.
That's right. He's
I'm learning well.
That's
learning
right.
Well, that's right.
Good for you. Good for
Yes.
you.
And we're
amen.
pointing fingers.
We have an applause button, don't we?
Yes, we do. Hang on.
And the applause is duly received. I was trying to fill time there for it so you could find the button.
It's funny. Once you start recording, the little buttons on the screen to move you from screen to screen go away.
Oh, you can't.
I'll self applaud. Yay!
Yeah, we can do that.
Here, I'll give you this one.
Word boner.
Oops, sorry. Hail the Empire.
Hail the Empire. Hail to the Empire. Yeah, we like that one. That's good. That's right.
Yes, hail the
Haven't
Empire.
haven't done that in a while, but no, it's code of honor time here, and we're here at Studio F downstairs in the lobby area of the Baxter Building. So
Where's Roberta,
I'm
the
brazen.
robotic receptionist?
Oh well, I've got Herbie.
That's right. You have
I
Herbie.
have Herbie.
That's right,
He's our little robot vacuum over here, and Her Majesty allowed me to name him Herbie. That was not an easy fight, by the way, but she did finally agree to that.
What did
so
she want to name him?
anything but that.
Why would you name the robot vacuum cleaner anyway?
Because Reed Richards'
Well, we have
house
one.
robot was
and
Herbie.
They call him Ringo for whatever reason, even though it's an iRobot.
I mean,
it's not like a.
shouldn't all household robots just be called Rosie?
Oh, that's very true.
Well, there's some truth to that,
George.
but I'm leaning into my Fantastic Four. I want to be Reed Richards kind of thing. So yes, it's Herbie. And
No,
that's-
I get you.
I say at least somebody here gets me. Thank you God for that.
Delusions of Reed Richards' grandeur.
Hell yes, absolutely. You've been in my office upstairs. What do you think it's decorated in? A la Fantastic Four. Come on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
and in
the
the closet-
world's greatest comic magazine.
That's exactly right. And in fact, my server that's in the closet on the monitor, it's Annihilus trying to get in. It's the gateway to the negative. So,
Although I got to say though, Annihilus on
and
the
it-
toilet is the best image I have ever seen.
yeah,
that,
couldn't quite get that far.
That server is sitting right next to the real doll he imported in from Japan.
Really, that's
So, listeners, you're getting some clues onto some of Francis's heroes. Reed
Kings.
Richards.
well. I was going to say that shouldn't be a
Reed
surprise.
Richards.
That's not a surprise.
And he has another hero he wants to discuss later when it's bourbon break.
Oh yeah. We'll get to that. Okay,
Yeah.
appreciate that. But
I think that's a really neat window. If listeners you can identify with us a little bit more, and especially about Francis.
well, that's true. And hey, next year, Fantastic Four first. Oh gosh, I can't remember the subtitle of it.
See a little bit
It'll be
more.
the first Fantastic Four film in the universe.
That's correct.
In
And
universe,
it's got
yeah.
a subtitle, and it's first something or other. Gosh, I can't remember. I have to look it up. With Pedro Pascal playing Reed Richards.
don't get me wrong. Pedro Pascal's great.
Yeah, and
I'm just not entirely sure about him as Reed Richards.
I think
it
he
is
can do it.
truly a
He's the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
He's
it is. He is.
he's
That is
popular.
one of the most critical castings, other than, in my opinion, than Tony Stark himself or Steve Rogers. You got to get this right.
be
And
fair-
Well, I mean, the real question is who's playing Johnny?
somebody that I do not know. However,
Nicolas Cage.
Vanessa Kirby is playing Sue Storm, Sue
Right.
Richards, which, of course, the irony is she is the only person named Kirby who will receive residuals from the MCU after this is done. So
Actually, is that true? I thought that the
might-
Kirby estate was
that
getting some
might
money
have been
from-
the
They got paid.
negotiation.
They
That-
got paid
I-
something.
I know that
but
they
got-
settled what that looks like, if it's residuals, if it's a
Yeah,
lump
I know there
sum.
was a lump sum originally. There was something
Right.
like $93 million.
Yeah, it was
which
a
is
significant-
pittance.
Well, that's
of what-
correct.
what
Of what
was
they was
deserved.
owed. Yeah,
Yeah.
somehow, but hey, they agreed to it.
But
so
they
it's-
agreed to because they wanted it over and they wanted something.
I do know that he gets creator credit in everything they do that
Yes.
he was involved in. So that to me is enough of a victory. But we're going down a rabbit hole. Yeah,
But that's a worthy one. In my opinion.
worthy one. So, but it's code of honor. So we're going to do quotations.
A quotation.
A quotation. That's right. And I'm going to give you one. We were talking about this in between the break here. Instead of going with the person, I'm going to go with an unknown, but I'm going to do a quotation on a subject, which I think we can really just sink our teeth into because
Well, I think that's pretty much what we what
sometimes, well, I guess my point is you don't know this person that I'm going to use. Everybody else we've always
Oh,
used.
yeah.
Well,
I,
no,
I get you.
a lot of mine have been anonymous.
Well, this is true. That's right. You have done a few of those. That's exactly right. It's been a little while, but this one here, we know who said it, and I couldn't begin to tell you who this person is. But I do think
Well, tell us though. I mean, once you say
I will do that. Oh, actually, I can tell you right up on the front side because he's not going to mean anything to you. Because doesn't mean anything to me unless you guys know him. His name, the gentleman who I am quoting, is Keith Haring. Which again,
Oh, that's old man Herring's boy.
that's right. I'm looking at the looks on the faces of my colleagues here, and of course, none of them knew who this person was, and that's okay. I didn't either. I still don't. But it's the quote that I went through, and I went through Brainy quote because I wanted to do a quotation on this, and you'll see it very quickly. I don't think. Here's the quotation. I don't think art is propaganda. It should be something that liberates the soul, provokes the imagination, and encourages people to go further. It celebrates humanity instead of manipulating it.
Is the spelling Haring?
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
the artist.
Yeah. American art, pop art from the graffiti subculture of the 80s.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
And
So
wow, that's
and
that.
I am familiar with his work. I
That's
wasn't
interesting
familiar so
context
much with the
because
name.
that kind of art was almost certainly very propagandistic.
yeah, and he's railing against that. It sounds
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
Well, I think he's trying to define the difference between art for art's sake and art for monetary gain. You know,
Well,
Potentially. Yeah. That's.
I think that's a false dichotomy in this because all artists have done their art for monetary gain. I don't care what nobody does art for art's sake because you got to eat.
yeah. Unless you're independently wealthy already.
I was going to say, unless you're already independently wealthy, every artist wants to sell their work because they got to eat. Now, the question is, because his quote very much was about manipulation.
Yeah. It's meant to be about propaganda.
Is
per
the
se.
production, is the art itself, the subject of the art, does that have a purpose beyond portraying something good and true? Because to me, that's part of what is good art. Is it portraying something good and true?
Which is what the
That
quote
doesn't necessarily
says.
mean that the subject matter that you see doesn't, it might portray an evil act, but good can be whether the subject is or good in quality, good in craft.
well, I don't think quality comes into it because go back with me to our young age. The Folgers commercial, the young man coming home for Christmas, comes home on Christmas morning, makes the coffee pot, and everybody comes in and celebrates. Beautiful film, but it was made simply to sell coffee.
Yeah.
Whereas, like Miracle on 34th Street, while it was made for commercial reasons, it's moved into the genre of art.
Yeah. Something good
you
and
could,
true. Yeah.
you
it's-
could make the
it's-
argument. I think Miracle on 34th Street is that's a great example here that something that, and I don't know that this was true at the time, but the whole Gimbels versus Macy thing was really, it was true and huge. So you could make the argument that there is a little bit of propaganda there.
Oh, there's a lot.
But, well, that depends on whether or not Macy's was involved in the production.
I believe they were.
I bet they were.
I think they were
So-
seriously involved in it.
I mean, a lot of our
Which is fine, but whether they are or weren't at the time, if it was intended to be a little bit of propaganda, I'm
Yeah.
perfectly willing to cede that. But it could very well be that they weren't, because that was just such a culturally known phenomenon. But it has moved beyond that, because that is no longer a relevant thing. Because I mean, that you use those words, similar. I don't not move beyond, but it's a piece of propaganda, because we'll go ahead and call it that for argument's sake, that is no longer propaganda. Partially because the message is meaningless.
Yeah, because
But
one of
the
those two
story-
parties is no longer here.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
But the story itself, though, is a good story, and that's why
I mean-
it's an interesting quote, because you can have a good piece of art,
Yeah.
tells a good story, that has a secondary purpose. Now, whether or not that negates the idea that it's art is
I mean,
the question.
carrying forward with you talk about Miracle on 34th Street and Christmas, but so much of what we treasure about Christmas
Oh, it's pure
is-
propaganda.
is
It's
pure
pure crap,
pure
yeah.
commercialism.
Yeah.
of, I mean, a lot of that stuff was invented to sell soft drinks or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, the polar bears.
well, here's an irony for
Santa.
you. When,
Well, I
when
mean,
I
Santa
when I
was-
songs
with the red suit. I
yeah,
mean, that's,
not
propaganda
carols,
to
but the
me
songs
was
were paid
governmental
for.
propaganda, but you
Okay.
guys have taken it exactly elsewhere.
No, now hold it. If you want to go with art for government propaganda, there's a huge history of that.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
look,
Ozzy
at
the
all,
Riveter.
look at all the Disney Disney cartoons that were done for World War II.
Yeah.
The Warner Brothers cartoons that were done for World
yeah,
oh
War II.
yes,
of
all those Bugs Bunnies that you
Bugs
are
Bunny
no longer
nips
allowed
the
to
nips.
see.
no longer allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, there and there was a huge amount of racism along with it, which was
Absolutely.
also part propaganda, depending on where you were.
Yeah.
But no, I mean
I mean,
and
the
this-
Uncle Sam posters.
Yeah, exactly. All those.
Well, you can go farther back than that even. So, for instance, to me, the man who's the greatest artist to have ever walked the earth. Anybody guess?
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo?
Michelangelo. That's right, because I've said this many times on the show. You could make the argument that everything he produced was propaganda for the church.
Yeah.
No, he was. Yeah, yeah.
Well, he was paid
But-
by the church to make it.
Right, but that's kind of my point, though, is, all artists do their art. Yeah, partially it's, yes, we are driven to create. Let's talk creators rather than artists. Yeah, because that way we can encompass more than
Somebody
just...
might as well pay you for the creation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, creators today often are also just, influencers
Yeah.
on
Well,
social media. I don't count
I mean,
them.
I'm gonna go
But-
though very kind of old school, like cultural defender on you though. But propaganda is one thing, but selling the message of salvation is very clearly what Michelangelo really was doing.
Absolutely.
in his church stuff, he did do private commissions that were not religious oriented. Not as with the
Yeah.
bulk
Right,
of his.
they're
was.
not known.
They're not as
Yeah.
well
But
known.
he was not producing it to be paid.
I mean,
He was producing it. He believed in it.
Yeah, he is. Yes, he is one that it's kind of danced around, and a lot of people don't
Kind
like
of
to
that
admit it. but
moved
yes,
by the Holy
he,
Spirit.
He is. Oh, absolutely. If you look at his stuff, especially the Pietà, and my wife is not a big art connoisseur. Doesn't have the background that I do. But when we went to Rome in 2017, the two things I wanted to do the most were to participate in Mass at St. Peter's,
Yep.
which was awesome.
Guaranteed. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That was
Brother
in-
Andre and I are over here just kind of.
I was supposed to
Clutching
be on
our
that
wrist.
trip with him.
Oh, that's right.
I tell you what, I mean, it's the kind of thing that almost still brings tears to my eyes to think that I was able
Mea
to
culpa,
participate
mea culpa,
in Mass
mea maxima culpa.
in St. Peter's at one of the side altars. But the other thing
St.
was to see
Peter's.
the Pietà by Michelangelo, the first one, because he actually did others, but this is the one that is, to me, it's the greatest piece of art ever created.
Yeah, the one that's so well known is
Yeah.
everybody's seen the pictures,
And
but it's
Mrs. Robert was brought to tears seeing that. She was so emotionally moved. I mean, I'm emotionally moved just thinking about that experience because it was so incredible. And you know, a lot of people say, well, it's just a hunk of stone. It is. It is more. It is so much more.
It is an amazing work of
Yeah.
art. Yeah, that's right.
And
It's-
that's
and
the kind
that's
of thing.
what the
A
best
man
art
who does
does.
not believe, I don't think, could have
You
created
can,
that.
no,
But
you
now-
couldn't have created that just for the dollar.
Now,
No.
Herring
Or the denari or whatever.
Herring was born in 58, so he grew up during that. His prominent time of growing up, influential time, would have been in his 20s during the 1970s.
Yeah, late 70s
So
into the early 80s.
he was
yeah.
at the height of things like Warhol and Lichtenstein and all of these
Yes.
guys.
Things we
and
remember,
influence.
but we're not quite.
He would have been a little bit younger for those for
He
the height of
was,
those, but
but
yes,
he-
Yeah, he's about
he
eight.
grew up in that
He
milieu.
grew up in that, and it
He's
comes,
7, 8 years
it
older than
comes
us.
through in his style.
yeah.
And it's a very distinctive style. And ironically, he did use that for propaganda per se, for posters for the ballet and things like that he was commissioned for.
Yeah, and I think that's something that because you bring that up, and you know
Mm-hmm.
we talked about some other examples that were you know some that are commercial, some versus
Yes.
that are governmental, and I think that's because Francis, you were very surprised that we went to the commercial side of things,
Yes,
as
first.
opposed
Yeah.
to the
Because the
government side.
propaganda to me speaks governmental, but isn't everything that's commercial propaganda?
well, and I think you can make a
Yeah,
very good
You
argument.
can
for
make that argument. Yeah,
because
yeah.
originally propaganda. I mean, today it's a dirty word,
absolutely it is.
but it was not a dirty word originally.
It is market. All marketing is propaganda. We're trying to
Yes.
get
Yeah.
you to do something you wouldn't do otherwise, or
We-
might
or-
not do otherwise.
we're trying to get you to do something that we think is good,
Yeah.
and we want you to think it's good as well.
Well, that's-
and
Or
that works for both government
or-
and commercial.
Well, and
Or
that
it-
is the honorable way of looking at it. That is the
Yes.
light side of the force,
Well-
but there is also the dark side.
Yes.
Well, Robespierre
Well, yeah, and
and
Marat is-
Marat
yeah, that's
that
right.
we were just discussing.
Well, absolutely. Marat's a great example,
They're
yes.
pamphlets
well,
and such that they put
every
out.
one of the Federalist Papers
Exactly, they
is
were.
propaganda.
It was deliberately designed.
But see, now that's the interesting thing, though.
It rose above.
It rose.
that's right.
It's,
It
it's
lasted.
like Michelangelo and the Pietà. Those guys were believers,
Yeah.
and that what they wrote wasn't to aggrandize themselves. It was to convince somebody of what they thought was good and true.
Classically, it would be called a polemic.
Yes, it would be a polemic.
Would, and in the church, we simply call it a witness statement. And Brother Andre, you know this, we've talked about this many times in what we do, is and Brother Robert the same way. When we go forth and quote unquote preach the gospel, we are giving a witness statement because we ourselves are believers, and that is what converts hearts. That's what changes minds. That's what
the
persuades.
difference. That's what makes propaganda transcend into something that convinces.
Well, it ultimately makes it effective.
Yeah.
So-
What really convinces then is
Belief.
that belief.
If you hold the belief,
and
only those who hold the belief can properly propagandize,
Well, no, I don't-
or
well,
evangelize.
Evangelize,
Well,
yes,
that's,
evangelize.
and that's what I'm
But
kind of
so then are you saying, because this is what it sounds
kind
like
of throwing
where
it
you're
out
going,
there.
that Herring is wrong?
Oh, that well, it depends on how you
Well,
phrase it.
because we're talking propaganda, and
It's designed to manipulate. That's what he says.
Yes.
that's what he's saying. But you were just saying though
It's
propaganda.
designed to manipulate.
Well,
It's not art designed to manipulate too.
how are you
well,
defining
every-
manipulate? I mean,
Exactly.
because
every argument, everything you try to convince someone of is a manipulation.
It is
To-
But
to
then
a
again,
certain level, yeah.
But what you're trying, if I hear you right, art itself is designed to provoke a reaction, and is that not
Yes.
in and of itself a form of manipulation?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
yeah,
And
But-
but yet it
but-
is not bad.
well-
But it can be the type of manipulation that Robert and his wife experienced at the PA.
precisely that's my
Exactly.
point. That's exactly
the
right.
beauty of it.
Michelangelo designed
The
to manipulate
emotions.
the emotions of those who viewed his
well,
grief.
and honestly, for something like that, now obviously, you know, we're almost you were right 500 years past, or actually a
Right-
little more
right
than
at it,
500
yeah.
years
Yeah.
past the creation of the Pietà, because that was the early first decade of the 1500s.
Right.
Early in his career, that's the thing. That man did that when he was in his 20s.
Yeah.
His early 20s.
He's still young and energetic.
God, that is just so incredible to me. But for something like that, I don't know it's kind of like what Martin was saying. You don't do that for the purpose of manipulate, because it's a two-part thing. Yes, you hope that this will, because especially back then, because this is, there's no movies, there's no photos that you can go to Walmart and get printed out. And a lot of people don't read, so it's like stained glass windows. They are how you help people understand the stories. But is something like the Pietà? See, I think something like that is less about the manipulation, in a good sense, helping to convert hearts and minds, as it is expressing the joy of your belief, the joy of the gospel, to share it with others, not to necessarily make them convert so much as, my God, this is such a wonderful thing. I want you to see this too, because I want you to experience that joy. It's not necessarily.
Is that not inherently what a witness statement is?
Yeah, it is.
Well,
yeah. But I'm saying,
an opposite point to bring up.
Sure, yeah.
You're bringing up the good, the faithful. By our definition, I'm hearing art is something that has made us to move us.
Yes.
Herman Goering,
Yes.
the minister of propaganda in
Goebbels. Sorry.
Goebbels,
Joseph
I'm sorry.
Goebbels. Yeah.
Joseph Goebbels.
Goering was Air Force, wasn't he?
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Luftwaffe.
My apologies.
That's okay.
But,
That's okay.
but,
You
he
got
did-
lots of people to correct you when you're with us.
He did. He did that very same thing. He moved people to an action they normally wouldn't take. Is what he did, would that be considered art and good?
No, because again, partially there is some subjectivity to it. I understand that. From the church's perspective, and I believe the church has actually written about this. I couldn't tell you who or what document, but I'm pretty sure that if we searched, we could find it. Art, if it has purposes or subjects beyond what we would call the good and the true, and again, this is the capital G, capital T, and by that we mean Jesus Christ, who is the way, the truth, and the light. It's like Francis recently made the statement about all religions provide a path to God. Doesn't mean you don't have to be Catholic.
That is Pope Francis, not me.
Yes, sorry,
sorry,
Pope Francis.
That's okay. We can.
I don't. It's good company to put me in, but no, I want
yes.
to be clear.
Yeah, I would listen to this Francis, before the other Francis.
Well, it's
You are.
See, part of the
so
problem,
nice.
though,
Yeah.
part of the problem with that statement is that, again, people take that soundbite and they misinterpret it, and that soundbite itself becomes a form of negative propaganda.
Oh yes,
because it is used incorrectly. This is part of the discussion. I talked about the discussion we had at the rectory last night, and this is one of the things that we talked about. That well, didn't the Pope just say you don't have to become Catholic? It's like, no, because like so much of the one-liners that come from Pope Francis, it presumes a crap ton of stuff.
That you know what he's common.
Well,
reference.
that you're
And
walking
two-
in through that lens. Yeah,
And two, it's usually taken out of context.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
So
Deliberately so.
And he's in an ecumenical setting.
Yeah.
So, and what he's talking about is what the church has said since Vatican II, most certainly, because that's the most emphatic, the first time it was most emphatically pronounced, or at least in modern times, is that if you truly seek truth, goodness and truth, you may not become Catholic, but you are searching for Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Because he is the way, the truth, and the
right.
light.
You may not recognize it.
You may not
realize it.
recognize it. And that's what he's acknowledging with that statement. But so
it doesn't
to
mean
that-
you're going to come across Jesus Christ. It just means you're searching. You may
right.
find something
Well, and you may
else
come across him, but
that's
you may
wrong.
not realize that you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah,
So it's
and
like
that does not mean that Jesus Christ is the only good thing. He is the absolute good.
he is the only
he-
good.
well,
yes.
He
but
is
Because
everything.
all good flows from him.
Right.
Well,
is a reflection.
It's the only path to salvation.
I mean, it's
And yes, if anyone
That is correct.
who seeks goodness and truth, if they are saved, it is only because they have somehow come across some kind of relationship with him, whether they know it or not.
Yes.
Now, again, that's
Grace alone, right?
grace alone. That's right. The church teaches grace alone. And the
But what about works?
Why haven't you swum the Tiber?
well, no,
Yes.
Why can't I get you baptized? Come on.
I mean, you got 3 guys here who can take care of that.
That's-
for you.
immediately, we could do
Yeah.
it right
Well,
now.
I mean,
Well, technically, we
Well,
should.
we shouldn't, but we
So-
could. We
We
could.
could.
Well, now-
Is he in danger?
Yes.
If his life is in danger, yes, we could.
He is going to die.
Okay.
Well, yes, yeah, that's the thing.
So, I mean,
Wife-
again, I
it'll
understand
probably
the-
be his wife.
I understand the mechanics. It doesn't necessarily.
Yes,
Well-
I understand. Yes, you understand the mechanics and the
It
theology,
doesn't mean I'm buying in, but it just means I.
but you
understand
can
the
explain it so
mechanics.
much better than.
Well,
somebody.
I was going to say,
So-
I still would love to hear your deep beliefs, whatever those may be. You have never, in all the many years,
one of these days,
I'm from the school of Ferris Bueller.
you got to stop and look around.
No, I don't believe in isms.
Oh, yeah.
I
That's
just
the other
believe
part
in
of it.
me.
Yeah.
I'm quoting John Lennon, or I'm quoting Ferris Bueller quoting John Lennon.
Right, because you would never
Yeah.
directly quote John Lennon, right?
Right. So I could be the walrus. I'd still have to bum rides off of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of circle back to what Andre was saying, though. So, art, it has to, for it to truly be art. And this is my opinion, but this is something that I would have said before I became Catholic. But gosh, I actually happen to have agreed with the church. Art for art's sake, it is a thing. Artists do want to get paid, but art that does not seek what is good and true, tries to present what is good and true. And again, that doesn't mean that they present, flowery fields. It's something that, again, should move you. Now, it can move you in lots of different ways.
And again, from the church's point of view, you're 100% correct. But I'm looking at it through the lens of our quote.
Absolutely. Well, he may be right or he may be wrong. That's the thing. But the question is,
Right. Art is supposed to move you, and it's
Okay.
supposed to move you in a direction the artist intended.
Okay. So what?
but but you know what? At one time, I would have agreed with that because it always bothers me when people interpret art, whether it be paintings, sculptures, plays, books, contrary to what the creator intends, has always bothered me. Because, yes, it may move you in a way that I did not intend, but that doesn't necessarily. But it doesn't mean that movement was invalid.
Right. It's not necessarily that it's inauthentic.
Yeah.
It can't be assumed that
Right.
it's
You
it's
can't.
authentic.
Yes, you can't say.
You have
well,
to.
you obviously meant
everything-
this.
Yeah. I mean,
Then-
everything
I
should be
s- you-
scrutinized.
Right.
Okay.
You can say it meant this to me, but you can't say that's what I
Okay.
meant.
Well, then let's
Yes,
add
yeah.
a little bit of a twist to this.
Absolutely.
Okay. 1973, Larry Flint,
Okay.
the obscenity charges against
Right.
Hustler magazine.
Yes, where it was stated, I don't know what pornography is, but I know it when I see
see
it.
it.
Exactly. But it was deemed eventually to be free speech
Yeah.
and,
I mean,
and an
he
art
won.
art
yeah.
form.
yeah.
And it was intended to move people, maybe not all of them, but a portion of them. And it did that for a number
Yeah, I
of
mean,
young men.
stimulate your baser instincts.
Exactly.
Well,
Stimulated something.
Yes.
What is the true artistic value in that or pornography?
So glad you
or
brought that
things
up
like
because
that?
that's
But you're talking about a civil ruling.
Yes, this was a civil ruling.
It's
but
a civil-
But I'm asking for
Right.
your touch
So-
on that.
But yes, but in a,
'Cause this
in
was
a,
just up in Cincinnati.
in a
Right.
larger analysis, yeah, I mean, I don't think I could argue with someone who says, no, there's no artistic value in pornography. Okay, I can live with that. But as a free speech absolutist, I'm like, that doesn't mean you get to suppress it.
Right.
That just
See,
means
now,
you
and
can
that's the
ignore it.
thing.
I agree.
there's much truth in what you
Because
say.
the minute you start suppressing creative
creative expressions.
and I will grant you, pornography has some we may not think much of it.
Yeah.
It may have
But-
also unintended or perhaps intended consequences.
Yes, and there are all kinds of
Exactly.
But the minute you start saying you can't do this, even though you think you're being creative, because it's kind of like what corollary to what you were talking about with Goebbels and Andre with his propaganda, his art,
his
so
art.
to speak.
Yeah.
Some of us would say that pornography and Goebbels have a commonality in that they do not move you in a good and positive way.
That's where I wanted to go. Yes.
And
Yeah.
the problem, though, with saying because of that, we have to suppress it, that's dangerous because once you start suppressing,
Then you're judging.
well, we always judge.
But it never
That's-
ends
well,
either.
yeah.
But the danger is that when you start suppressing, especially in a system like ours, that kind of speech, and it is a type of speech. All of it is. Once you start suppressing it, you have set a precedent. That's the danger.
Yeah.
Well, now,
And that's to me. That's I may not like it, but yeah, I can't.
that is one
So
of
you-
the benefits of our country as opposed to everywhere else. Europe, for example, anything that's considered, if you try to throw a swastika up someplace,
Oh yeah, in Germany especially. Yeah.
you're going to jail.
They shut that down.
Brigitte Bardot got fined umpteen thousands of euros just because she said some stuff that she doesn't care for the Muslim faith.
Oh yeah. Well, in England now,
Yeah.
you can be sent to jail for saying something like that.
And-
Canada is very nearly there.
Canada's right there. Now, the head of the Metropolitan Police in London recently said, if you're going to be saying those things not in our country, we're going to come get you and arrest
Oh yeah.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've
and
railed
it's
about
like,
that.
dude,
on
welcome
other
to America.
episodes.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
dude,
Ameri-
the sun has set on the British Empire, so
have.
good luck with
threatened
that.
to extradite Americans who
American-
said stuff.
Yeah.
Sure, Americans go on X and complain about this.
Yeah.
We'll extradite you. I'm like, come on,
Come and
bro.
get me.
Yeah.
Come on.
See that
But
happen.
America-
Welcome to America.
I got
But
15
America-
mags loaded up, ready for you, bitch.
I mean, at one time it was if you went to another country, you were ruled just by their laws. That's not the case anymore. American laws apply to you as an American citizen no matter where you commit the crime now. They will pick you up and they will charge you in the U.S.
So
Yeah,
if I have to go to Czechoslovakia and commit murder,
You can be convicted here. They arrest and
And I
charge
have a
people
problem
with
with
child
that.
molestation.
I have a problem with that principle.
I do too. But
Partially because if you're
should.
outside of U.S. jurisdiction,
yeah.
now morally, sure, that
I
absolutely
agree.
that somebody should hold you accountable, but you should be sent back to that country to be held accountable there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's that's been a
but
so
now the
correct me
borders
if
are
I'm,
gone.
Correct me if I'm wrong on all this here. Then to kind of go back to this quote here because he talks about he says art should be something that liberates the soul, provokes imagination, encourages people to go further.
absolutely.
All right. So therefore, art itself to be art, as we're defining it anyway, but as common sense would determine it as well, must be in some fashion virtuous.
I mean, I would
Yes
agree
or
with
no?
that. I would agree with that. Let me give you this example.
And I'm not talking about free speech here, just
No,
because you
I'm
can't,
talking
just
about-
because
So-
you
so-
can do anything you
I mean,
want, but
yeah.
to consider
Well,
it
at least
art,
once.
The
That's right.
communists and that they had an art express. There is communist art.
absolutely, yeah.
That
In
art
fact-
is meant to evoke
Yeah.
the idea that hey, inform on your neighbors so the state can murder them.
Well, not just that though, because I mean,
But-
in fairness,
That's
in
you know,
Moscow, for example, in the first book I did, I talked about all this. The subway system is still state of the art for the world by its expression that of pushing forth the communist revolution. If you can find the pictures out there, all of them are designed to really uplift that particular ideology. But
Right.
they are considered architectural works of art. They are amazing from just that's
Right, I
just the
mean,
way. So it's
so-
not just. I don't want I don't-
Architecture is a little bit different, though.
It is, but it is
because
a form of art.
It
yeah.
is. But
At least in this case, it certainly was.
it
intended
is
to
a
be.
little bit different in that it's very difficult to convey the same kind of message in architecture that you can in all other
not,
forms
not
of.
directly,
yeah,
not
it's
directly.
Well,
Yeah.
correct.
the,
But,
the,
I
the
mean,
architecture.
brutalist
that-
architecture.
Well, like I said, it's
conveys
difficult.
enough,
Okay.
you
It
know,
is
it's-
the
it
architecture
conveys
in
the brutality
particular,
of life.
for example, in these places here, also showcases other works of art, sculpture, paintings, other forms like
Yes.
that.
the Colosseum sends a very straightforward message.
That's
does.
kind of what I'm talking about here.
it does.
Is it's all about this intention to glorify something
But you could
we as Americans find
play soccer
problematic,
in a
but
Coliseum was.
But
That-
that-
that's
about-
not what they're.
intact. You could
They're
play
not
soccer.
glorifying totalitarianism, at least directly. They're glorifying
Communist art
the ideals-
absolutely was.
Well, they're trying to
Well-
glorify the ideals of the revolution.
Yeah.
precisely.
They're trying to tear down the Michelangelo idea
Yes.
of expression and replace it with
A brutalist form.
brutalist.
Almost.
Inform
That's-
on your neighbors so the state can murder them and get rid of your class enemies.
because they have done one thing that is
Okay.
this
and
is why
I'll give Haring a lot of credit for speaking out against that.
absolutely absolutely. The difference though, for the communists, why they were able to do that, and you can call it art. I mean,
Yeah.
to a certain degree, let's call it creative.
Certainly it was, yeah.
It's
How many
creative,
pictures
but
of Kim
is it
Jong
really
Un
art?
have we seen?
But the difference
Yeah,
is,
exactly.
and why it's seen that way, at least in the country, is that they have replaced God. And when you do that, then what is good and true becomes whatever you say it
you've
is.
Well,
substituted
precisely
the
where I'm going with
state
this is
for-
what you've done here, and this is a great example of that. You have created something in your mind and in your culture is virtuous,
Okay.
but yet is opposed as such, even said is exactly the opposite as per Martin's discussion.
It's the exact
But-
opposite of
The inherent respect for the inherent dignity of the human person.
Yeah.
Well, according, but the
we're
communists would
both
say,
men.
but the communists would say no. It's exactly,
Okay.
it is precisely that because it is the
no. Communism had no respect for the inherent dignity of the human person.
No.
The human existed to serve the state, and when you no longer serve the state in the way the state
are
wants you to,
disposable.
you are a disposable entity.
But it
No,
was
you are
it was-
disposed.
It
And
was
you are disposed
created though to uplift
yes, and
the
but
worker,
to them-
no,
the
Lenin
proletariat.
and Marx never created anything to uplift shit.
But that's
It was burn it down so that we can take over.
Right,
That's all
right.
it ever was.
But what he's saying, though, I
they
think
were honest about that.
right. But what I think he's saying, though, is that whether it's right or good that they did this, what the communist state has done is they've made what we would consider something horrible
Yeah.
That's
into a virtue. So yes,
Precisely
children
that.
turning their parents in for speaking,
think.
for wrong think for
See,
yeah.
but that's
considered
they phrase it
virtuous.
virtuously.
Yes.
Everything
Yes.
everything
Well,
they've
because
done is-
again-
Because they phrased it virtuously doesn't make it a virtue.
I'm not understanding that.
Absolutely.
Precisely my point.
The question is because all societies are different and have different bases, because they have replaced what most people would consider a good with the worship of the state.
Yes.
Which they consider that a
Yes.
good.
Generally speaking, whatever you worship is going to be reflected in your art.
Okay.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So therefore,
Power is what was worshipped.
How about this
So
one?
power was
Absolutely.
in their art.
Go back to the U.S. here and art. There were a number of exhibits that were banned in this country and tore down and taken out.
that's kind of
Maplethorpe.
one of the places I was going with that.
Maplethorpe's
Yes.
exhibits throughout the U.S. As a matter of fact, here in Louisville, it was banned.
He was the one with that showed the,
piss Christ,
crucifix immersed in urine.
Urine.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's him.
Here's the difference,
There
though.
was a whole bunch
Yeah,
of
I mean,
that was just the most salacious.
allowing him to make those things
Mm-hmm.
is fine. He can make those things.
Doesn't mean he's guaranteed a
Yeah,
place to show.
you're guaranteed a voice, not an audience.
well,
Yeah,
but
and
that's
he
what
can
the
show it
First
if he
Amendment
wants.
means.
I don't have to
had
go.
People
Yeah.
he had people that were willing to allow him to show. The state would not allow him to show. In Louisville,
and I
it
would-
was the city under
I,
the
well,
obscenity
no,
laws.
Now,
I would
I would-
disagree because somebody has to bring suit to stop that. What it's
those
not that the
items-
state won't allow it. It's this somebody has brought suit and convinced the state, probably because they're a big ass donor,
Possibly, yeah.
to prevent
Yes.
because it's considered
Because it was offensive to
yeah.
them.
And there
And they had the money
There
to
is a
back that up.
compelling interest to the state, and this is, and I don't necessarily mean Kentucky. I mean any state,
Yeah.
whether it be country or region, to maintain peace and order. And certain things would absolutely cause a problem there. And
Yeah, I mean, it's
you could
fire-
make the
fire
argument
in the
that
theater. Yeah,
yeah, so you could make a compelling argument whether it's good or not. I mean, you can make an argument that is logical. that
Going back
says-
to the definition of virtuous, pulling in the Star Wars the theme quote, they said good and evil are different perspectives. So
Yes.
is what I'm hearing us come up with saying is that virtuosity is defined by your perspective.
Well, in the case of communism is a great example. Abso-fragan-lutely. They really totally if you bought into the Marxist-Leninist ideas, they phrased everything that they put forth as a virtue, based on their understanding of the supreme power of the state is ultimately good for the people. That's how we would question that, but that's how it was phrased, and a great number of people believe that.
It was often not phrased that way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Lenin was brutal about
Well, Lenin was one of the revolutionaries.
Yeah,
though.
I mean, but
the revolutionary
supposedly-
period, I think you have to look at separately.
That is exactly
but
right.
Supposedly, everybody says we ascribe to Marxist-Leninist dogma, and that dogma is it's okay if 3/4 of the world is consumed as long as the remaining 1/4 ends up Marxist.
Well, that's
But-
because the dialectic demands it.
But
Yeah.
you see, the thing is, with
The
this-
intention is
with this-
the
with
revolution is good for all.
with the way the perspective
no,
is changing.
the intention was the revolution's good for me.
But look at what we're
As
doing.
far-
Practically speaking, yes.
If
But
I'm
ultimately,
I'm telling you,
have
they were
to-
honest
Okay.
about what they were
But
doing.
Look at what we're doing here.
Lenin was
Okay.
like,
How did it
Hang on.
possibly
I've got a
become?
good one going.
How did it possibly become such a such
because
a
it was a
well
path
under?
to power for people who didn't have any.
But precisely my point.
Just
You
like
see,
the French Revolution.
Therefore, it's laid out
You
as
have
a
nothing.
good. It's
Not
laid
for,
as
not for the general populace.
well. Then, how did they get the general populace to sign on?
Fear. And general populace didn't always sign on.
and they
Once
didn't
you take
necessarily
over,
do
you
any
take
different.
over. Screw the populace.
So you're
Okay.
suggesting then that the Russian people in particular don't really give a shit as long as they're not being killed who runs their country.
Yeah, it's hard. That's a
I
hard
mean,
statement to argue with.
Yeah, it's
I
kind
am.
of hard to argue that
Well,
one.
that's what I'm kind of because
Because otherwise, Putin would have been 9mm a long time ago.
well,
That's
and that's
retirement
one of the
age.
reasons I'm trying to
You
get
have
to that.
Remember,
Ask the average American, do they care who's in the White
the
House?
Leninists were the
there's some
Bolsheviks
truth
were
to that.
always
Well,
honest. They never phrased it as "this is good for everybody." This is good for us, and you're going to go along,
Well-
or else.
By the time you get to Khrushchev and Brezhnev, you have this worldwide communist revolution, and everybody is singing the same hymnal that we're going to make this a workers' paradise. They bought into the Marxism, the Bolshevism, which are two different things.
That was just
Okay, now
gloss.
what about
well, then that's kind of what I'm kind
what
of
about what we're doing
laying out.
here in this
Yeah, let's.
country right now?
Marcus,
Yes,
the Imperator
okay.
has been trying to
I
butt in.
apologize.
No, this is fine. The point I wanted to get to was let's look at Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky now has an arts council that deems whether or not something is art for public display and whether or not it can be displayed in the city.
And I tell you what, that is
I know
that's
an
abomination in my opinion.
right up my
Yeah,
butt. But
Because again, it's judging
it
speech.
is.
It's
But
ultimately highly
but
subjective
Look at the way
by definition.
perspectives have changed.
Yes.
There were, in this city alone, a number of statues that reference the Confederacy or individuals that were associated with the Confederacy
Yes, that's
or
right.
slavery or what have you. And they are being torn down.
Yes, gone.
They are being destroyed. They are being vandalized. on a
Removed from
regular
public
basis,
spaces
removed
at
from
a
public
minimum.
spaces
At a
At
minimum.
a minimum.
That's right.
Because things have changed. The perspective changed. At one time in this country, the general accepted thing, and even by the Supreme Court, was that slavery was perfectly fine, that blacks were not whole human beings.
4/5. Yeah.
4/5.
3/5. Excuse me.
And, yeah, and that was just if you were male.
Well,
And things have changed. The perspectives changed over the years, just like with the art. And perspectives change with time and understanding and who's in power and what you've been taught.
So does that mean virtue is therefore malleable?
no, hold on. See, because you have to go ahead because I tend to dominate.
The interpretation of virtue is malleable, but virtue itself is not.
Well, that's
exactly what I was going to. Yeah,
well, that's where
very
I,
eloquent.
that's where I'm
exactly what I was
trying to
going
get us at. Even though Martin and I are having an argument, he's arguing the same problem I'm talking about here. I'm just trying to stay with me, work with me. We'll get there.
Okay. First of all, though, I would like for Robert to give malleable.
Oh, yes.
You like that?
That was
Okay.
excellent. I love that.
Yes.
And then I think it's probably time for a break.
It
Yeah,
is.
we
Yeah,
need a
we got
perfect
to.
break.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have to do this one kind of quickly.
I'm
Bourbon break.
trying to get there. I got it. wow, I knew that when I picked this one, this is going to be a heightened thing.
This is a
here.
great quote.
And listeners, I want to apologize. I believe I'm shouting down Francis, and I don't mean to, but
No.
I want to argue with him a little
Yes,
bit.
you are.
He's still my hero.
Well,
He
thank
is
you
still
for
my
that.
hero.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I keep the proper perspective here because, as Ricardo Montalban would say, the villain does not think he is the villain.
No, nobody gets
No.
up thinking I'm going to be evil
No,
today.
yeah.
That's
Lenin
correct.
didn't think he was the villain.
You know, he really thought Lenin was very. He believed in Marxism. He believed it was the best form of government.
Now, what about Stalin?
Well, we'll get into that. We should do a Stalin episode, but
Joe believed in Joe.
This is Bourbon Break, for God's sakes. Here I am continuing
Yes.
the argument.
Yes,
you
Bourbon Break.
You started it, Martin. I won't.
Passion. The passion.
I'll take the
All right.
the blame.
Well, let's give you the blame and give you the first lay with regards to what are you
The
drinking?
what?
First, it's
The
a
fir-
card game thing
First-
here.
First draw
First-
in the poker.
Okay, that's fine. I was going to whatever.
I'm to
that
the left of the
euphemism?
dealer. So I've got the Basil Hayden Subtle Smoke.
Oh, you did that one. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So to follow up on with Robert testing it out last episode, and yes, it's quite good. The hint of caramel, the velvet, smooth mouth feel. Kind of that sort of sweet, milky caramel
Yeah,
thing to
yeah.
it. Quite
Vanilla.
good.
The smokiness mixed in with it is very unique.
Yeah.
It almost takes a little bit extra to really pull out
It is a primo bourbon. I really liked
it's
it.
a good pour.
It was well
So-
worth the wait. I'm thinking.
I'm trying to judge it against the Jephthah Creed.
I think it
just
falls
add-
short when you do that.
Yeah, it's not quite there, but they're both very good pours. I have
yeah.
to say.
I'm sorry. I mean, I know Basil Hayden is your
It's
thing,
okay. That's all right. You know.
but the Jephthah Creed,
It's-
I
head
enjoy
and
the
shoulders
Yeah,
above.
I
almost
love
every
Jephthah
other
Creed.
bourbon.
It
really,
is
really
so good, but the Jephthah Creed is just like
Hey, that's totally fine. This is a specific approach anyway.
Yeah.
They're deliberately trying to do something different with this
Right.
particular one.
And Basil Hayden, they take again, they're part of the Beam family. So you've got, oh my God, there's probably hundreds of different expressions across.
Yeah, I mean, they're
God knows how
casting
many brands.
a wide net.
Yeah, but Basil Hayden, they've taken their core expression, and they've taken that and they've modified. So they've put it in the wine casks.
Yeah.
They've done the subtle smoke. They've done the toasted. They've done a bunch of different
Malted
things.
barley.
Yeah, I mean, I
malted
find
rye.
this really amps it up. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to sell it
I mean,
short.
it's a good bourbon on
it's
its
a
own,
super
and then
duper expression. And
they
it's
do all these other
really
things.
good.
and
It's one of the reasons I like it so much is it's low proof.
See, I
like
and
that.
I think that's the difference, though, is the 80 proof versus the 100 proof.
yes.
Yeah.
There's just a little bit more snap to that Jephthah Creed with that 100 proof.
Well, and that's correct. I'm a fan of the lower proofs.
See, I'm a fan. To
can
me,
drink
100
more.
proof and above is my.
Yeah,
I can drink this without a headache. But if you give me too much,
90
I've got a
to
headache.
100, it
That's
really
that's
feels
just
like a
me.
sweet spot
Well,
to me.
yeah, this is one that as much as I love, or that one, as much as I love to have a little bit of ice in it to bloom. I've gotten to the point where I'm very careful about how much ice and what kind of ice I will put in my
Sure.
bourbon. It's like if I'm having one of the lower proof bourbons at home, I just put just a couple of very small cubes because our new fridge does very small pieces of ice. And I try to do no more than 2, maybe 3 max, depending on whether or not they're whole.
Yeah.
Because again, too much dilutes these lower proof bourbons.
And there's some truth in that. That's why we've got the little ice maker over there that's got the pellet size that you can manage that, mitigate that.
And I kind of wish I'd done that.
that might have been a good idea
subtle
for this,
smoke.
for this lower proof
Yeah.
type stuff in here.
Well, and even the Jephthah Creed, that's is it 100 proof?
It's 100. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's kind of at that bottle and bond spot.
Yeah.
That 100 proof.
what are you drinking, Robert?
So I poured the Jephthah Creed. It's the red, white, and blue.
That's what I thought because I brought that out deliberately. 'cause I
And
knew you wanted
God
it.
love you for going ahead and opening it and
signed
letting us do
bottle,
that because
yeah.
it's a signed bottle. And I don't think you should ever buy a bottle to not drink unless you're investing in something like you come across like you win the lottery for Pappy's, and you want to sell that, never open. You go right ahead because Pappy's, it's a great bourbon. I've had it over at.
I've had a
the
couple, yeah.
Pastors. But I would much rather have the money because I can buy a whole lot of bourbon.
You can buy a whole lot of
good
really
bourbon.
good
A
ones.
Of
very good
really
bourbon.
good bourbon because honestly, there's more hype than it deserves.
Damn straight. It's not that much better.
No, it's not.
Not that many dollars better.
It's
it's
not.
good shit, but
Yeah.
hey.
Yeah.
I
But
mean-
again, we're not so wealthy that, $1,000 for a bottle of bourbon or 5,000 or 10,000 is nothing. So there's a little bit of that. Like, I win the $400 million Powerball tomorrow
I mean,
or tonight.
There's a point.
You'll gargle with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
there comes a point where there's just an ego thing.
Right.
Well, and that's
because I
yeah.
can.
Well,
We
the
could
ego
talk a
thing
long
is
time
what
on-
caused it to be $1,000 bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk a long time on the
But
on
now
the
this Jepfa Creed, though,
Yeah.
you had it, Martin, the
Yes.
last episode, and we first tried this at Bourbon Fest last year,
Yeah.
and then you got this one, we both got a bottle.
That's
at
right, yeah.
Liquor Barn,
Yep.
and it is just one of those ones that is so complex.
I love it.
Yeah.
I
Up
do love it.
front,
It's a wow. It's a
And,
wow.
it's one that you can drink neat and still enjoy. Now, obviously, any bourbon you drink neat, you have to open up your palate to get used, because the ethanol in any bourbon is going to your mouth just has to get used to that to be able to enjoy the rest of the flavors. I think that's just a basic truth. So, like, if you're going to drink, it's probably not a bad idea to start with a subtle smoke or something else.
It's a lower proof. It gets you
And-
there.
Get your
That's one of the reasons I think we kind of stumbled into starting well when we started with Basil Hayden years ago.
Exactly,
Because
yeah.
it was a low proof. We were able to learn it and realize this is good.
And it is.
And
It is a
good. It's still very good.
You're right though with the idea of you've been saying how you're used to the higher proofs.
I like the higher
And
proofs. Yeah.
so what happens is, you do alter your taste and your palate and everything. And so what ends up happening is when you get a lower proof bourbon, when you're used to the higher proofs, it's a little bit more difficult for you to be able to judge it real clearly.
It is. It is. That's why it's almost better to do the lower proofs with little to no ice.
Yeah, neat.
Maybe just a few drops of water to help it bloom.
A lot of folks like that approach.
Yeah.
I've not done it. I don't know that any of us have done that.
I'm working my way towards being more careful with that, just because, I only drink maybe once or twice a week at home. And some weeks I go sometimes several weeks without having any.
Sometimes
Just
it's
kinda
usually
depends.
just here.
Yeah.
For me.
But I mean,
And-
I've been experimenting with I got that bottle of the spring water,
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's-
yeah.
the limestone water, and I've been experimenting with the way it alters the scents by how much you're putting in, and,
Yeah.
and for each to bloom.
And that's another thing,
Oh, yeah, that can make
the
that-
nose on that's generally the phrasing that just calling it the nose, and it's how it smells, how it hits your nose.
Olfactory senses. Yes.
And like many things, the nose is not always a direct correlation to the taste. It's kind of like coffee. Coffee doesn't taste nearly as good as it smells to me. I have to doctor it to be able to drink it, but I gotta have my
fighting
caffeine
words.
somewhere.
As I say, you're a coffee connoisseur there.
Them fighting words.
That's
Well,
right.
I'm sorry. I mean, coffee smells great, but I
can't
just, for the
stand it.
most part, I just.
I can't even stand the smell.
Well, I would think with that honker, you could smell a lot of good
I
stuff.
can.
I mean,
I've got a beak.
yeah, you do.
It's true, yeah.
But yeah, the smell is. I'm picking up more on the nose than taking more time to do that lately. And Jepfa is a great one on the nose. Well,
It
the
is.
subtle smoke is pretty good on the nose too for a lower proof.
It is. It's just unique. It's so unique.
Yeah.
I'll
both
give
like
credit.
that.
I'll give credit to Beam for coming up with an expression that's unique. It's
Yeah.
very unique. It's and Andre, what are you
Yeah.
drinking? Because I want to hear yours because I've had it recently.
I'm drinking one that I'd never heard of. Francis put out Blueprint Whiskey,
That's right.
aged 6 years, 100 proof. Mash bill of 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley.
Ooh,
had
that's
to-
a high rye.
I had to go on a hunt for that one.
And
We got it at the Bourbon Fest. Old Steelhouse is the distiller. They're a small distiller in Cox's Creek, Kentucky, just literally up the road here.
Yep.
And I know you guys had some of theirs.
Just north of Bardstown.
That is correct. That's right. Here, and it's an old distillery that they are in the process of restoring, and they're making. This is their first batch.
Yes, and the reason it's called Blueprint is because they found these blueprints.
Yeah.
during the
Oh,
restoration.
yes, that's right. That's who that is.
Yeah.
Yes.
We spent a little bit of time at their booth at the Bourbon Fest.
Yes.
Yes, but Martin and I think we had a little bit more time to talk to them because
They
it's
were
the Bellarmine
at
event.
Bellarmine.
Yeah.
Now I remember. Yes, the blueprint. They found the blueprints, so they're kind of reconstructing the facility along the lines of the blueprints that
Yes.
they found.
And that's why they
to
named
the
it this
place.
here.
Yeah.
Age 6 years, 100 proof, am I
100,
right?
100 proof, yep.
So they're just now coming out, and I follow them on Facebook. They've come out now with their second batch, which I think is still under the Blueprint label. They have a few others that they're going to be doing. Old steel houses eventually coming. I had to go to Bardstown to get this one, but I was impressed. And I was impressed by a lot of them at Bourbon Fest.
I remember being very pleased with their bourbon when we tried
Correct.
it. I couldn't
And-
tell you how it tasted, or anything, but that was my impression that it was
Yeah.
very.
And
Yes,
that was
I
my big
remember all
regret
this
of the
now.
day. I didn't go back and get a bottle there. So I went out and literally I had to go to Bardstown to get it. But Evergreen Liquors, which we
I
love.
tell you what, that Evergreen
We
in
love Evergreen. Yes,
Bardstown
that's
is
right.
awesome.
It
They've
really
got
Not a
was.
hole
nice-
in the wall, but they have a lot
Oh
of
no, it's not a hole in the wall.
Well, it looks like it from the
Evergreen
frontage. It's got
on
small
3rd Street
frontage,
is
but it's way back.
Wait, yeah, it's huge.
It's
Never
thin
been
in
in
the
it.
thin in the
And
front,
they've got
and
this
long in the
little
back.
bar on the left.
Yes.
That is just awesome.
I made the trip out there and I picked it up and I talked to the folks out there. Said, yeah, this is not available everywhere, but it's coming. And I said, well, you really need to get it in Louisville. And they said it was coming, but I picked that up there and 6 years. I had some not long ago. Cajun happened to be here, and I said, I'm going to crack this. And I wanted his opinion. He liked it a lot. And what's your opinion?
It has, and first of all, on the nose, a lot of ethanol coming off the top of it. Once you blow that off and take a taste, extremely complex flavor profile.
That's what I liked about it. Yes.
And I can't even identify half of them. But one I was able to pull out was nutmeg. I've never tasted that.
Love it.
Okay.
The baking spices that we've talked about.
I was going to
Yeah.
say,
A couple
Martin
of them.
is usually the guy that can pick this up. One of these times we're
Well,
going to have you.
Cajun.
Cajun is
Cajun
really
too,
good
that's
about
both.
the baking spices.
I'm hoping
I
that you
defer
can.
to- I defer to Cajun.
Yeah, that you can pick this up at some
Yeah.
point because I think it's a. I was.
I can pick
wasn't
out a lot of
stunned
those
'cause,
flavors. I just can't name them.
What was
really-
the price point on this?
This was about 89, if I remember right.
So if someone will pass it around to me, I will give an attempt at it.
Here, let me
Yeah, pass
sniff
that
this.
around here, because I am a big fan. I'm a huge fan. Let the Imperator take a little sniff.
He's got a good sniffer.
He's got a good schnoz. He can usually pull this out of different things. Here.
But when he just popped the cork and sniffed, all
Yeah.
he's going to get is ethanol.
No, I got a lot more than just ethanol because I'm sniffing the cork too.
See, I bow to the. There's a reason.
But,
He's
but anyway, so
it's
it has some warming flavors to it.
it's a very mild as far as
Velvety on the tongue.
Yeah, it's a very smooth bourbon, and
Again, this is the smell because
this is the smell. So
Yeah.
I don't drink, but yeah, you've got a lot of different.
Yeah, pass
the
that around. And
nutmeg,
if Francis is wanting me to try it, I shall.
It reminds
appreciate
me of really a good bakery. The smells you get off a good bakery because you get a lot of ethanol smell from the bakery with the yeast and everything.
Yeah.
But it is like drinking it's like that really good bakery that you want to go to because you smell it off the street.
It's going to be one of my go-to bourbons forever. I mean, I love my Basil Hayden.
it's got a very classic bottle too.
Yes,
It's
it
tall and thin. I
It's-
mean,
it's-
it's the kind of thing you think all right, I'm going to smash this on the bar and gut somebody with it.
There's
yeah, you're right. It's a beautiful,
It reminds me.
Bottles matter.
It reminds me of like a very good croissant.
How French of you, sir.
That
Croissant.
buttery,
Croissant.
a bit of the
butter.
buttery smoothness to
Yeah.
it, and then lightness, the airiness, like you get with a croissant.
Leave the rest to bloom.
I was going to say, yeah. What are you guys thinking? Because both Francis and Martin are pouring in themselves a little bit here.
I must have sold this one well.
Robert,
Yeah.
Robert, you're Francis.
Yes.
Yes, that's great. Yes, Martin and Robert. are
So
doing
you
this.
can tell who's the guy who is hosting that doesn't have to drive
Yes.
because he's the guy that gets to partake
Yeah,
even
because
more.
I've been, and we'll get to what I'm drinking in a few minutes. But I do want to hear your guys since we're kind of on this blueprint subject. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, the ethanol is very
Yeah,
Yeah.
blow it
Very up
off.
front in the mouth.
Blow it off. That's right. Is that's something that we're
I can taste the rye, definitely.
A little better after it gets a chance to be in the ice and kind of cool off.
That's 100 proof, so it's
You
about
get
right.
that
Yeah.
buttery, airy.
But just
kind of-
at room temp, it's but cold, it's a little better.
Yeah, the ethanol really does hit you in the nostrils, even after it's gotten cold. But
That's much better. A much better taste right there when
Yeah.
I got to the bottom.
Yeah, it's designed to be bloomed.
the rye is really, to me, it's coming forward because I get a lot of pepperiness in it. Where the
nutmeg-
75% corn is still a good amount of sweetness.
The
there.
nutmeg is right under the corn if you reach for it.
Yeah, it's very layered. I think that's a good
is.
way to put it. It's very layered.
Yeah.
Martin, you agreeing with that?
Yes, it's almost where it's different every sip.
Yes,
And isn't that to me is a virtue, to use the word we've been
It's kind of
talking
it's
about?
kind of crazy, but yeah, it's like it's kind of one flavor on that first sip, and then another flavor on the second. As it cools off in
Yes.
the ice, then it's like
and as
another
I got
flavor.
took my third sip, the sweetness was up front as opposed to the rye.
It's very Travis Slattery. It's complicated.
It's complicated.
And then yes, that sort of baking spice nutmeg is really kind of at the end. Wow.
I was going to tell you, I'm a fan, guys.
It's a heavy kiss, but it slowly turns into a nice little hug.
I really enjoy
I,
it.
I think you're right. I think that's one.
That is a winner. That is
pour
a
it,
big winner.
Let it sit.
Yes.
Don't hit it right off. Pour it, let it sit. Let it kind of
try,
get nice.
Try it right off and enjoy the change in the flavors.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think that
Spend some
ethanol
time
Enjoy
with
the
it.
bloom.
in the mouth is really heavy, though. That first
It is.
first little
It-
bit.
it does
So
have
I
a
would
lot
at
of
least let it
ethanol.
bloom a little bit. I think just to I mean, you should always blow the ethanol off of the top of your bottle or your drink, anyways. But it was so heavy in the mouth my first sip, and I let it sit for a minute or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all
which
you-
is usually enough to at least
should be
start
enough,
that process.
Wow.
But
that-
you're right.
I
It
mean,
is
there's
3 sips, and
yeah,
each
it
one was
was
different.
Yeah.
Isn't
So
that-
that's fantastic.
and that's something,
Incredible. I
isn't it?
mean, we've been through 3
Very, very complex.
four super amazing bourbons in this episode. With the McTavish, Jip the Creed, Basil
Subtle
Hayden's
Smoke.
Subtle Smoke, and now this Blueprint.
Now we got one more
And-
over
You
here.
got one more.
Oh
That's
yes,
right.
and you've got. I know what you have,
Yes, you do.
Yes,
That's
so,
right.
So again,
and I want to have a little
listeners,
bit of that after this.
That's
so.
right.
This is Francis's other hero besides Reed Richards.
That's well, yeah.
And I tell you what, who's the bigger hero?
well, you make that argument. That's very
Yeah,
true.
that's
Yeah.
for you. That's a good question.
It is.
I think Ernie probably comes out slightly ahead because he's real.
Because he's real. That's correct. Reed Richards is fictional, of course, but you're right. This is the Ernie.
You know, I can get Ernest to sign for those books for you.
Oh, I'm sure you can. That's right. That's right.
Yes, well as we discussed, I know how to get Muhammad Ali's autograph.
You just get a proxy.
Just get
That's
the,
right.
the legal
But-
proxy.
That's right. But no, we're finally cracking. Now I bought this a year ago. Is the Hemingway Rye?
Now this is technically your second bottle, or is this still?
No,
your
this is
first?
still the first. I have
Oh,
not.
okay.
We haven't finished it.
I thought you had finished it.
No.
The original.
The intention was we bought this last year. Of course, I've been a Hemingway fan for quite a few years now, and
We won't hold that against you.
Yeah, I was just going to say the Imperator, notwithstanding.
right, and the company here bought the rights from the family, obviously, for the Hemingway Rye. And it is only rye. It's a small company, and they put out 4 different versions of it this year.
Right, there was only the one last year.
There's
wasn't
only the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
because
yeah.
they were literally just starting up, and that's what I bought. And that's what I'm drinking right now. And I had the master distillers, both of them, sign off on it. So that's what. I put that aside. And by the way, it's 102 proof. Just to kind of lay that out.
And you did not open that until you got the contract.
Correct. That is correct.
Because that was the whole point.
That was the point. Was at that time. This was September. I had submitted my manuscript to my eventual publisher, and I'm thinking,
prior,
okay,
yes,
yeah,
the prior
about a month earlier, and I'm thinking, okay, we're in the process here. I'm going to hold fast, and you guys were with me the whole way, saying I'm going to crack this bottle when and if I get a publishing contract, which happened in February.
So yeah, so you and Mrs.
And,
Francis.
well, I was gonna save it for us. I'll give you that. But Mrs. Francis,
but Mrs. Francis overruled.
she
that.
overruled us, and she says,
And
"No,
we're fine with that.
Of course,
And
I
we
know
are,
you guys
yes,
are." She says, "No, you're cracking that with me," and
that's fair
and-
because
and
she
we-
has put up with you.
She has put up with me. That is correct. And that's a larger statement than you realize.
Well-
But we did enjoy that. We cracked it
Yes.
open, and I have been a huge fan since
Right, and
of the bourbon itself.
well, this is not bourbon. This is rye.
This is rye.
It's a
This is
rye whiskey.
It's rye whiskey.
And,
It's
you know-
very Humphrey Bogart of you. Rye whiskey.
And I am much more open to the ryes than before because when we first really because it was at Martin's place where we first really ran into a really high rye. I don't even remember what bourbon.
and I
it
don't
was.
remember
it
either.
either,
But
no.
yeah,
But it so colored the rest, and it kind of brought into focus some of the things we had
huge
experienced
differences.
prior.
And both of you guys were kind of like rye. I'm not a thing on that.
Well, and that's because most of them
I was scared of rye
that we had
too.
tried so far, and I've seen this at distilleries. The rye, because it has so much of a peppery taste, it colors everything after it.
it does. It's kind of
And
harsh.
It is. Now it's not a bad thing necessarily.
Bad, but
I mean,
But like if you're doing a tasting flight and they want you to taste the rye second, which is usually where it is, I get so annoyed at that because it doesn't necessarily ruin, but it definitely impacts what follows more so than the bourbon. Because I mean, everything you try will impact what follows,
drink the high rise last.
but you should drink the high rye last.
right. Well, with regards to rye,
But
and-
this one did not have that effect.
absolutely. This is, and it's not just because it's Ernest Hemingway. It's not just because of all
There's
that.
some of that.
Maybe a little, but for the bourbon itself, and I've bloomed it. I used the spherical ice cube to do this, but this is my third or fourth time that I've been drinking on it. Holy mackerel, guys! There's a sugar to it. Is what I'm getting, a sweetness.
Wow.
See, which is
Which you shouldn't be
you
getting
shouldn't
with
get it with,
rye.
but you do here.
Do you know what the mash bill? I mean, is it 100% rye? Is it malted barley? Is there?
Well, there should be some barley as the
It's a blend
starter.
of straight rye whiskeys finished in rum seasoned
rum. That's where you're getting. the sweet-
Glorioso sherry casks. That's
Oh
Sherry,
yes, both of those will get you
yeah.
sweetness.
That's where it's come from, and that's one of the things. And I'm surprised I did not remember that because you guys should remember it too because you were at the booth too. You
right, but that was a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys saw them this year too. Didn't
I did not get.
you?
I was
didn't
gonna
make it over there.
I was gonna do that on Sunday, but I ended up getting sick on Sunday.
I remember
and having
that,
to
yeah.
go home. Yeah.
We almost took him to the hospital.
That's
I tell you, I was
You were
sick
with-
I was with him.
into Monday and Tuesday. I took Monday off.
I remember that. Well, see,
and I
ended
still
up-
wasn't feeling 100% Monday.
I went
or
on
Tuesday. I mean.
Friday, and I guess it was Cajun that was with me. You obviously weren't. You two were obviously not.
Yes, because you guys went there and got Cajun got his set,
He got all four of their expressions,
but didn't get. He got a duplicate, so he had to go back.
He
the
had to go
next-
back the
yeah.
next day. But I got the one and we will eventually get to that one too, which is a bit higher in proof, higher in dollars.
What was the proof? 102.
102 here. Yes, right. So yeah, you're talking about. I want to say the other's 110. Do not quote me on that. I do not remember. But
Yeah,
I am.
between the year between buying that one and this year's Bourbon Fest, they've added 3 expressions.
Yes.
I am a
And
huge
it's
fan, and
something
it's
else.
not. And again, you're right. A little of it is the Hemingway mystique, but as a general, nah, this is some great stuff. I cannot wait
Yeah.
for you guys to take you.
Well, when we
pass
tried it-
the bottle, if you guys,
Yeah, when we tried it last year,
I'll just take a sniff.
So I'm
I
very-
think we were all
I
very
think I've had
impressed.
enough.
I don't want to get you guys
so
snot faced.
this is why
Too
Andre
late.
needs to go to Bourbon Fest.
Yes.
Yes. And
We-
you got to get a kilt.
We got to figure out how we're going to handle the accommodations because it's better to be there and
We'll
overnight.
figure it out.
Well, let's go ahead and put our reservations in for. Is it Old Talbot Tavern? Don't they have rooms for rent there?
Yeah, they're probably already
They're
filled.
already
I guarantee
filled.
that's
There's
filled.
that new hotel that's going in.
Yeah, the one that they're
it's the old Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean-
that
Yeah,
they're
but that's
working
all the
on.
way at the express. The Bluegrass
Francis and
Park.
I are close
is.
enough.
yeah, but
as
that,
to
that's on the way
drive.
between Cage's place.
We're gonna
Yeah.
be so snot faced drunk. We no.
No,
Well, no, I drive.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is true.
I'm the
Good.
designated driver,
the
and I've
American
got
is
a
always
minivan.
DD. So
He's the DD.
Oh yeah, I can smell that. Yeah,
and
I
I
got
got
to smell the
minivan.
sweetness.
Realistically, Cajun's place is kind of 25 minutes.
It's a bit
I
out.
think it's
about
less than
50
that.
It's about 14 miles from the downtown area to his place. It's about 14, 15 miles.
And I love on this bottle, by the way. I just want to bring this up because I've been meaning to say it. I love what they've done because they've used old-fashioned typewriter key letters for the rye part, and
Type
I
out
think that's
RYE.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
like little raised buttons that look like old school typewriter,
which is what
keys
Hemingway, of course, used.
would have worked on. Yeah,
Yeah. So
I mean, the
Probably
only thing
use
missing
Windows 3.1.
is the lizard in the bottom. Is the only thing missing.
yeah.
Now, this is bottled in Florida. Where does it? But it's distilled and aged in Kentucky and Indiana. So that's interesting.
Right.
So they distill it here and in Indiana because it is a blend.
It is. Yes.
They
They're-
send it to Florida to bottle,
Yeah.
and then
Wow.
they bring it back.
It's,
So
you know,
what-
they're a
what
small house. They got to
they're
figure out. They
probably-
got to figure out who can do it.
Well, they're probably buying white label stuff and mixing it.
Did you want to
I mean,
give
when
a smell to
you're
this?
When
Okay.
you're starting one of these distilleries, a lot of them do tend to buy white label from other distilleries.
Yes,
and do their own
Bardstown
blends.
Distilling is one of the
Yeah.
big providers of that. I mean, obviously they will distill to
Yes,
your
to your
specification.
specs. But I mean, having to sit on tens of millions of dollars of equipment and everything else, and plus the rick houses for the barrels and everything else for 6 years.
Minimum. Minimum 4
Yeah,
generally, but yeah.
that's a heck of a financial hit up front.
It is. It is. You have to have a lot of money to start it.
which
So-
is why
and
a lot of them start by mixing other people's
by
stuff.
sourcing, yeah. And there's nothing, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Especially if you go to a reputable distiller like Bardstown Distilling.
Yeah.
And Bardstown Distilling, they've got some of their own expressions that are supposed to be really, really good.
So the fellas that founded Bardstown Bourbon now have a new thing where they're going to do contract only and not have their own labels.
So they're
That's
going away
Whiskey
from their
House.
own labels?
Yeah, so you remember at Bourbon Fest the big tent that said Whiskey House?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's what that is. That's going to be in E-Town.
Oh, interesting.
They're opening the facility. It's going to be state-of-the-art facility in E-Town called Whiskey
Well,
House.
they've got the money for it now.
And they're
Now,
going to
but
be
is that in
strictly contract only.
So, but that facility, that's still in addition to what they're doing under their own label, or they're
No,
getting rid of.
They sold.
So they're getting rid of their own label entirely.
They sold Bardstown Bourbon, and that's its own thing. But now they're
But so you're saying the guys who are behind Bardstown Distilling are
sold off.
sourcing 100% now, and somebody else has got
Right, like
Bardstown.
they're
Okay.
gonna gonna get out of the idea of their own label and and go strictly
Well, and that's a great thing because
production for others.
that's a great way to help startups. It's a great way to make money, and we've talked about it before. They're not the only one that you can do this for or do this with, but we have talked about doing a Snakes and Otters bourbon. Now I don't know if we've talked about it on the show before. I think
No, you haven't, because Francis is hearing this for the first time.
No, we've done this in our chats in Signal.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure
On the
It's been
secure,
a-
on the
it's-
secure channel.
on the
Yes.
secure
The secure communications channel.
but we have
Only the Brotherhood is allowed in.
I think Martin and I were probably the two that were most involved about that.
Yeah, you were,
But
yeah.
we were talking about, what our percentages would be and how long. Because I think Martin
We
was
did.
like, 6 to 8 years. I was like, no, we need to go to like 10 to 12.
Well, we need to make it a weeded.
It needs to be weeded, yes.
Definitely.
Little to no rye. I mean, I don't mind a little rye, but it's if you're going to go weeded, rye is almost why would you bother?
Yeah, I mean, because if you go weeded, you're definitely attempting
A sweet bourbon.
sweet
Yeah, it's
style.
one or the other, but not both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
I
are
mean-
some that do both.
Yeah.
But you're definitely attempting to go in that kind of
But
maker's
but Robert
sweet
doesn't
direction.
like them. I mean,
Well, no, it's not that I don't like them. Like the Hemingway. When we tried that last year, I was very impressed with it. I liked it.
Okay.
So it is opened my mind to the possibility that a rye whiskey is a really good thing. I just don't like to do bourbon
you just don't
after
like-
rye.
Yeah, you don't like that pepper.
Well,
in
it's
your mouth.
just like
no, it's not that I
chocolate
don't
ice
like
cream.
the pepper.
I don't-
It's I don't. It is the
It stays with you.
it stays with you and it impacts everything
I mean,
afterwards.
everybody looks at me weird when I say this, but to me, it reminds me of getting a fish sandwich at Parish during Lent.
Yeah.
because I always like to get rye bread
Oh, okay. I see what
with
you're saying.
my sandwich. So it's that's to me, rye has that same trigger, deep down in my.
He is the most
Senses.
Catholic pagan we will ever find.
I'm trying to get him to swim the diaper. I really
I
am.
tell you
I mean,
what.
we've got 3 deacons here. We can make this happen. but-
Francis, was talking about. Well, let's talk about what
That's right. We can fix things.
what Martin's into. I'm gonna put it on the schedule because
Ooh.
we say we're not.
Oh, we're
and
going to do a live baptism?
No.
Oh.
I'm
Oh
not
my gosh, that would be awesome.
A
wouldn't it be?
baptism
Wow.
show.
I'm not going to phrase it as what Martin believes in, but I'm going to put an episode about where I am.
Maybe the next Tupajube.
The next Super Tube.
No, it'll be a regular episode
Okay.
because
Oh,
it'll be
okay.
a philosophy episode.
What,
Okay, I'm down with that because I love my
Well,
philosophy.
you know,
Absolutely. We did a good job.
episode.
Actually, Robert, at the next time we have one at your place, what you guys need to do is just bless the pool ahead of time.
Yeah.
And
And
show-
throw him in.
We'll shove his
Doug
ass
Martin.
in.
Well, you're going to steal my thunder because on our extro, I was going to say, stand by, Outrights, episode 346, the baptism of Martin.
Yes.
Right.
I mean,
I would love
guess
that.
technically, if Brother Andre just blesses some water out of the fridge and throws it on me, then we're okay.
Well, technically, but
You
well,
kind of have to accept
But
it.
yes, there's part two.
if you
is-
don't want it,
yeah,
Yeah, you can't
Then-
forcibly do it.
Then it's a
Yeah.
bath.
yeah,
it's
it's
ex-
just a bath. Yeah,
it's extreme unction.
but the
What if we get
well,
him in
no,
his
because that's a
sleep?
Oh, for
different
God's
thing.
sakes, he
Oh, my
who
gosh.
knows that word that's a pagan?
Catholics
Except
don't know
him.
the word.
That's
Extreme
right. That is
Well-
about as Catholic a term as it comes.
Catholics our age might.
Yeah,
Anybody
yeah.
younger than Gen X? No, they're
No
not.
way,
gonna
it's
know
not going to
that.
happen. And yet he knows
To
it
be
and
fair,
he uses it, and he
went-
uses it
He went
correctly
to Catholic schools.
and smartly.
That's true. He went to Bishop David and he
I know,
went to
but
Bellarmine.
he went in the 70s. That term
been
wasn't used.
indoctrinated.
No, he was a Bishop David in the 80s.
80s.
Well, it's true, but you know,
He's been indoctrinated.
No, I've been with you all for 40 damn years.
well,
That's
that
right.
Too. That,
Yeah, I
that'll-
mean,
right.
as
that'll-
Spock would say,
that'll get
constant
you.
exposure does result in a certain degree of
so I mean,
contamination.
when the
Dr.
heart
McCoy.
flutters and they do extreme unction on me, that's where we'll be.
Well, I tell you
So
what,
let's say, of course,
He'll
this
take
episode's
it in
saved
the
for
end.
perpetuity. We've got this on tape
Yes,
that
we
Yes.
is
do.
allowing
He wants
us
it
to
in the
give
end.
him the last rites of the church.
So when he's
when the
when
time
he's,
comes.
when he's out cold, intubated.
That's
well,
kinda what it is.
and
I mean,
but I think
we
we
do
could
it.
We've got-
canonically
we-
we could make a good argument
yes, we
at
could.
could
that
convince-
point
We could convince
for
his wife.
baptizing him. And
My intention.
He just said
Because-
he wanted it.
I,
No, I
well,
didn't say I wanted it. I said you all would do it.
yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean,
I'm expecting it to happen. That
but
doesn't-
he understands so much of it. I
Yeah.
think we could make an argument canonically for a valid baptism.
You're more Catholic than I am.
canonically, I love
It
it.
says one of the clergy in the room. That's
Yes,
right.
yeah.
I'm laughing so hard, listeners. I'm laughing so
and-
hard, my eyes are watering.
And
All
the,
right,
and-
which-
and the other recovering Catholic in the room went back and got. I think you guys gave me the ointment of the sick.
Yeah,
Well, we had Philip
Umpteen
do that.
That's right. You've been
Yeah.
anointed.
Umpteen
That's right.
times.
That's right.
Yeah. Well,
because
that
I
one-
kept dying, and then I'd go back and get more.
Yeah, well, well, part of that was concern for you, medically, but also
Oh, yeah.
for your eternal soul.
I know.
That's right.
Because that's the great thing about anointing of the sick. One time was called extreme unction.
Intended
Yes, it
for the
was.
dying
Intended
at
for the
that
dying.
time, but because we recognized it's
Yeah, because
not
our
that.
parent, well, maybe not my parents, but your parents,
Very
and
much
your
so.
parents,
Yeah.
if they saw a priest come to them in the hospital, they'd have been scared to death.
They knew they were
And that-
dying.
because they thought they were going to die.
Because at that time,
that's a very true thing. It's kind of
Oh yeah, it was last rites time.
yeah.
It was. That was what it was called. Last rites.
But which is entirely a different thing from anointing
Yes,
of
I
the
know.
sick, because we've separated that now. But the three of us, the three deacons who are sitting here, deacons, other than the few married priests that we have in the diocese and in the church in general, are currently the only ones that can receive all seven sacraments.
That is
I have received all seven.
and I have received all
I
seven
have
as
as well. That's correct. All of us have.
And you know what? That's a pretty cool thing.
I like to think so. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we have a few married priests that obviously, because it's, because it's either marriage or ordination generally.
Is this religious elitism?
Yes, we're better than you.
Well,
It's-
I tell you what,
Practically.
We got that from Andre. I love
I mean,
from the
hey,
beginning,
I've had all seven sacraments. My shit don't stink.
that's right. From the beginning, the bishops were chosen from the ranks of the deacons. But as my pastor likes to say, yeah, well, we priests got together and fixed your little red wagons on that.
But you mentioned that you've received anointing the sick several times. For those that aren't Catholic or those
Numerous.
Catholics that don't know it, during the rite of anointing of the sick, the oil of the infirmed is placed on the person's hands and on their forehead. My pastor says that after you get it, you're good for another 3,000 miles before you need another oil change. The Imperator has gone back for many oil changes.
I mean, a modern engine, you could do 7,500. So.
Yeah,
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
and
Well, but
I
3,000 is probably better because we can't use synthetics.
and I kept dying and getting revived, so I had to get it re-upped.
Exactly.
But that's kind of my point, though. It's a great thing about that is that the anointing of the sick. The reason bishop or the deacons cannot do it is because it has the element of forgiveness of sins to it, and we cannot do that.
That's right. Yeah, it takes care of that.
Except in baptism, and again, it's not
It's the
us
short.
doing it,
It's
but
the
yeah.
shortcut for those who cannot confess.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you have to have that
Because
ability.
on your deathbed, when you're in a coma, you can't confess. So anointing of the sick.
Takes care of that
Yes.
problem.
And the presumption is that if you're a Catholic, you would want that. So that's why we can,
That and Philip just didn't want to hear my shit.
He didn't have that much time.
yeah.
But in fairness, you only remembered so much of
I
it,
do
so it
only
might have
remember
been a
so
shorter
much, yeah.
confession. Than you
Well,
might have had.
as I mentioned, and we actually talked about this. Oh, you know what? So I got my two stories that I have not told. And bourbon break is the best part for this. And our
Okay,
bourbon
okay.
break is like 40 minutes right
yeah,
now.
because we're
let's
running
do
up on time. So
Yeah, we're at an hour 20, but it's code of honor. We're allowed to go longer. So, you know how to tell who loves you the most, your dog or your wife? You put both of them in the trunk of your car for 3 hours.
Who's gonna lick you after?
Who's going to be the happiest to see you?
I like your version better with the licking.
Who's gonna lick you when you open the trunk?
Yes.
Yeah, it's your dog. Your dog loves you more than your wife. I'm just saying. Now the other thing. So now this is something that maybe Martin and the
He's
Imperator.
trying to be kicked out of the house. So let's go ahead with this.
Yeah, Martin and the Imperator might be more inclined to test out, although Martin just might be too old for it now.
Yeah.
So we were talking last night, and the non-clergy in the room, he was talking about when he was in his wilder younger days, which we all had a bit of time of that.
Not terribly wild, but I mean,
well,
they
yeah,
were there.
I mean, certainly. Well, when the Imperator is in the room, nothing is wild in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, nothing in
Cajun
comparison.
too.
And Cage. Well, he's not here now.
Yeah, but nothing compares.
Yeah, but he made the point that the smart guy who's poor goes to the bank and doesn't get a roll of ones. He gets a roll of twos, $2 bills, because in the dark they look like 20s. Yeah, see, yeah.
Thou art brilliant, sir. Thou art brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, because you think about the effect that a 20 has versus a dollar bill.
Yeah.
So.
And as a tip for those who are going to such establishments, don't take ones. For God's sakes, at least give them a 5.
But
I
if
mean,
you are poor,
if you're poor, though,
the
inflation
$2
hits-
bills.
Yeah, inflation hits the nudie bars too.
Yes.
That's right.
The
So
ones no
let's
longer.
cer-
In the 80s, you could do ones.
They don't
Now
take credit cards?
Now you got to do 5s.
No.
well, if they take your credit card, they're not giving it back.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Well,
That's my
you can,
guess.
You can run a tab, but that doesn't work for the girls. That's why they have
An
cash
ATM.
machine there,
Yeah,
ATM.
yeah.
Okay, let's circle us back.
So, anyways, those are my two stories from last night that
Thank
I
you.
absolutely had to share.
Let's
Those
bring us
were
back
too
to
good,
the
yes.
Let's try to finish this up here.
Francis, give us the quote in its fullness.
Yes,
one more
because
time.
that
One
is-
last time.
So
let us
that
go
we
around the
can-
horn,
Yeah.
as they say here, to kind of lay this
I
out.
promise not to attack Francis any further.
Well, that's quite all right. I mean, it was a spirited discussion, and who doesn't like a spirited
yes. Yeah.
discussion? That's the way I look
Again,
at it.
We need to get our
He
emotions
is my
up.
hero.
But yeah, I'm very grateful for a very, very good discussion.
Somehow
Our best codes of honor, though,
Fran-
are
when-
when we have some disagreement.
yeah,
Get it going.
when I go after Francis because he brings up some dumb Voltaire shit.
Martin Martin was the one when I
God.
first.
Those are our best
It
episodes.
starts
Well,
again.
Martin was the one when I first came in. This is way back when we were just in the infancy stages. I suggested to him, I said, I think I might like to do something on Voltaire. And he just absolutely went apeshit. And he's thinking, oh, that is so great. That's going to make some great stuff. This is going to be fantastic. So don't be hating on Voltaire because you're the one that allowed him in.
Well, but
As a general discussion, yes, but his quotes I've savaged a couple of times.
well, and I have
Except
too.
for the one. Now I do love the one about when they were giving him last rites. And
Yeah.
He said, "Do you renounce the devil?" And he's like,
Now's
"Hey-
not the time for
hey,
making
Father,
enemies.
It's not the time to make new enemies, Father."
That's right.
yeah,
That I love.
Yeah, but there's probably not been a philosopher that we have done that I have not been the hardest on. I think of
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was to say,
That's
you
great.
you've hammered a few to not pun, but let's pun.
Well, right,
this-
but I mean, but I do that because, and this is why I get real anxious over things like the Arts Council
Yeah.
and things that start deciding, what is good. And this is why I am all for Elon Musk's buying of Twitter, because I am very much against any kind of censorship. Because once you start down those roads,
Yeah. Let me decide what I'd like to consume. That's
Right.
my right as a human being.
but and I take, because what I do is when I see something like this, all right, that's not a bad thing. The first step is always a good step, But when you take it to its logical and ultimate conclusion, because it almost always happens, that's when you get in trouble. And I tend to do that with our philosophers.
Yeah.
Augustus McCrae would agree with you,
Yeah,
as he said very clearly that a man that likes to rent pigs is hard to stop. And that's exactly what we're talking about here from
The
Lonesome
corollary,
Dove.
however, though, is I don't want my tax money going to it, no matter whether I like it or not. Let it stand on its own.
Which
And that was, to me, that's the issue with the Mapplethorpe stuff. It's
Right.
not that he made it; it's that we freaking paid for it.
Well, but you know what? And that's a very American idea,
By
which
God.
is new, absolutely 100% new in the history of man. Because prior to probably
Yes.
probably
Yes.
prior to the 20th century,
Yes, I mean,
all art
that
was
is a
government funded.
That was a revolution. Either the church or the government funded almost all.
Well,
art.
and by the
even,
government-
even singing, even music,
Right,
was
opera,
sponsored
yes.
by the church. I mean, there is
The
a
castrati.
Yeah, I mean, there is a demarcation at basically Beethoven, where everybody before Beethoven is church music and everybody after is secular music almost.
Well, it's a mix still, but yes.
Yeah. Well, the powerful still were the ones that did it.
And there are still art patrons.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they are not. But they are generally the people who are living off of inherited wealth.
But I mean, specifically, part of what the furor, as the Imperator brings up Mapplethorpe, specifically the furor was that was tax dollars
Yes.
A lot of
funding that. Not it wasn't so much that he couldn't display that work. It was, why the freak are we paying for him to do this?
Right.
Why is he? Why are we paying for him to insult us? Essentially,
And one correction, you said it was usually only in inherited wealth individuals that were patrons of the ark. It's moving more toward corporations looking for tax breaks that are donating money to
Yeah.
councils for the arts. And
There's truth to that.
Well, yeah.
in this
but I mean, as far as
uber modern times,
there's
yes.
not a whole lot of corporations that are patrons for individual artists, though. And there may be.
They're giving grants to
Yeah.
organizations.
Yeah,
who
yeah.
parse
Louisville
those
Ballet
out.
sponsored by Brown Foreman.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
It's advertising.
Whereas Lorenzo the Magnificent, who what is it what's the big place in Florence? I went there. It's
Florence Hall.
The Duomo.
no.
the dome
Not
in
the
Florence.
Farisi. It's something.
Yeah, it's the church.
Florence, Italy.
Yeah, it's the
no. It's the
dome. Yeah, it's
Not-
the one.
not Florence, Kentucky.
No. It's the big museum that was where Lorenzo's
The Uffizi Gallery.
Uffizi. That's it. The
Okay,
Uffizi.
gotcha. Okay.
Uffizi Gallery.
He is the quintessential example of a patron of the arts who also happened to be the ruler of the city-state of Florence.
Yeah.
So that's what the kind of guy that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And so he was both the rich as well as the ruler, because back
Yeah.
then it was the same thing. And well, today it's the same thing. What am I
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Which is why corporations.
Right, but corporations, yeah, like I said, they tend not to do individuals. They tend to do groups.
Well, the Medicis were also into church politics as well.
They were,
So
yes.
it's kind
there
of
was
like
more than one de Medici pope.
Now, well,
That's right.
Washington State's an interesting place because in Washington State,
And again, this is all propaganda still. This is on topic.
but Washington State, they require 1% of all government contracts, building contracts and what have you, to be for art in that. So if you build an overpass, you got to pay an artist.
Which seems asinine to me, only for this reason. If that's what you want, then just take 1% of, just cut out the
budget.
middleman and just send it directly to whatever arts organization.
Yeah, paint us something on this
Now-
overpass and we'll pay you for it.
Well, it doesn't even necessarily have to be that. But now the only thing I can say that would be good about that is that you then take, instead of the government deciding which organization or artist or whatever
Yeah.
gets that 1%, somebody outside does. Now, granted, you're still mandating they have to
Oh no,
spend it.
they have an arts council that'll
I guarantee you,
approve anything.
because otherwise everybody wants some of that
yeah.
pie.
You know,
How do you decide who gets it and who doesn't?
So you go into a prison in Washington State and you got Chihuly's glass hanging down everywhere in the lobby and stuff like that. It's insane.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure the inmates really
Appreciate that lobby?
that. Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
It's
That they see when they come in and when they leave.
I can make
That's
a shiv
it.
out of that.
I was going to say the shiv is where we're going on this one here.
Yeah,
Let,
all right,
let
give
me
it-
let me
give
get
it
the
to us.
quote.
Yeah,
Let
let's
me
go
get the
back to
quote
the
so we
quote.
can finish this bad boy
Yeah,
up
because
here.
we're at 1:30 right now.
Right. Here's the quote from Keith Haring. I don't think art is propaganda. It should be something that liberates the soul, provokes the imagination, and encourages people to go further. It celebrates humanity instead of manipulating it. So it depends on where you want to emphasize here.
And for the most part, I agree 100%. One of the things I think is bad about that quote
Yeah.
is define further.
Yes. See, you can
Define
pull some-
celebrate.
Well, absolutely. That's right. Where do you want to go?
That's right.
The devil's in the details.
That's
You know,
right.
what are you celebrating the humanity of man? Are you celebrating the man made in the image and likeness of God? I mean,
Or the depravity of man.
or the depravity of man.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean,
Rape
that-
of the Sabine.
yes. I mean,
Well,
there's
Yeah, I mean, it's important to note he's a social activist. In particular, he is an HIV activist. Would lose his life to it.
At age 30, I believe.
Something like that. It was just
very
1990,
He was a
1991,
baby.
something like that.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, as a super broad statement, and even down to the details, I'm 100% with him.
Yeah.
Again,
Oh yeah.
it puts him squarely in the ideas that we have always long treasured here with the Brotherhood. We've talked about with Michelangelo and with Robertus here, and this notion of the inherent dignity of the human person. That's the celebrating part.
Yes,
But-
absolutely. But not
so-
everybody understands
Yeah.
the concepts that we're talking about
right.
in the same way. That's where the devil is in the details.
Right.
Exactly.
So one thing too that I really applaud him for again is it is a statement against the idea of using art to construct a society that doesn't value the human.
Yes, because almost always when that happens, when you use art in that way to create what we would call the negative way we would think of propaganda today, it is never to truly uplift man. It is always to subjigate him
Manipulate.
to somebody else.
Power. Right. So that's why I have reacted so strongly here, because I agree with him 100%. The use of art to construct something that destroys humanity is an evil thing.
It is, and that's what makes things. Because the two of you, your heated part of the discussion, was over communist.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
propaganda.
socialist
And
quote communist art.
And that's the
is
funny
used for that
thing.
purpose.
It's like when Andre and I talked about A Miracle on 34th Street, because you can have something that is well crafted, because we're all about craft.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so, yes.
Well crafted, beautiful images take great skill and artistic talent to create. But the purpose that it is used for
Yeah.
can be so perverse
Right. I mean-
that it is no longer art;
Right.
it is
Let
an
me,
evil thing.
I give you the one of my favorite paintings, and I don't even. It's just like it's just burned into my brain without even remembering the title. Is Delacroix, and the execution of the rebels in Spain.
Oh, okay,
They're,
yeah.
they're rebelling against Napoleonic domination, and so Spanish patriots are being executed up against a wall. Delacroix is making a statement here.
I'm vaguely recall. Is this like there's a bunch of guys with rifles and doing a
Yes,
firing
yes.
squad kind of thing?
Yes, it's a painting of a firing squad.
Yeah.
So he's making that statement with his art that this is wrong. He's
Right.
He's
And that's a
he's
good
pushing,
thing.
He's
Yeah.
pushing
Yeah.
the viewer to understand what's happened here.
Right.
And
In opposition to the current power structure.
Yeah.
yes,
So,
yes. So then-
Propaganda conceals, art reveals.
yes.
Ooh, now
Because-
that's some good stuff.
Very, yeah.
counterbalancing that again with the art tradition in a communist world. Again, the drive, the purpose of visual media in the communist world is to further the power of the state, to further trample, the members of that state for the purpose of preserving the power of those at top. And so that's where I that's that counterpoint that comes to my brain, and why I react so viscerally to this. I don't mean to say that Francis is apologizing for communist art.
No,
No,
I
he's
just-
not.
I want to be very plain about where I feel about it, and
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
think anybody has any
Yeah.
doubt where you
That's
feel about it.
absolutely correct. And,
So-
and I believe me, I am quite
so
well
I-
aware of the lies that has been promulgated. But it's kind of one of those questions of you can't say you're the villain and expect people to follow
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And so how did millions, unless they are 100% apathetic,
Well,
and that argument might be maybe
they're
made.
they're prisoners of it.
They're
Well-
prisoners. They don't know any different.
When you're
is
entire,
it really that?
Yeah.
Is
But-
it because serfdom is not that long ago?
No, I know a number of people that grew up in the Soviet Union and the different.
I have a sister-in-law that
countries
did.
around
She's
there.
Ukrainian. You
And-
talk
yeah,
about
exactly
yeah,
Ukrainians and stuff. And
You're
that's-
powerless to do
That's the
anything
thing.
about
They were powerless to change it.
Well,
So-
yeah, but then again, are they even thinking about changing it? There's
and,
the-
and I think there is
They
something
are.
to
There
that.
is.
Well, I think there is something to that because when you are, now obviously not everybody, but when you are in a system that has beaten you down so that you can barely scrape through the day or the week to keep yourself and your children alive, it is very difficult to think about changing
Well-
that which oppresses you.
That and when you see also anybody that does espouse change
is killed
is
or
just
sent to the
taken
gulag.
away.
Yeah.
And as far as
Gone.
whether or
I
not
mean,
they
you don't
live
even
or
know.
die, you don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, you don't know. You don't even know what to do.
Exactly.
You don't know that that was part of. They had no idea what
was
was
going
even
on.
the alternative. What can we do?
Right. And you're talking about a
only
system.
only certain people who understood the outside world would seek out something like Solzhenitsyn.
Yes.
And there is no outside. And again, this is pre-internet, so this is something that
There
we
was
always
no
have to
outside
remember.
word.
There
Yeah.
is no outside world beyond Pravda.
Yeah.
You know?
And yet, in 1991, they did it.
Well, they did. However, also you have to remember
Yeah.
They replaced it, but
there is
It only lasted 8 years, and then Putin comes.
Yeah. Well, there is still by 1991. It's a lot harder still at that point. Obviously not as easy as it is today. It's a lot harder still to keep quiet in secret all the stuff that was going. Because remember, that's not the first domino.
No, yeah, it took
It
a
is
while
the
to get there.
It is the last domino.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the actual
it starts
tipping point.
in
But
Poland. Ends, not
so-
say ends, but it culminates
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean,
biggest event
runs
with the
through
fall
the-
of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, it runs through the
89,
Brandenburg.
2
And
years
then
ago.
2 years later, they just can't stop it anymore. So there's
part of it also was the fact that the Soviet Union didn't have the cash to keep going.
that's because Reagan bankrupted them.
that was part of the strategy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really was.
Well, I mean, once capitalist ideas and things started coming in.
They were always there because there's
They were.
always a
There was-
black
there was
market.
always a black market,
Black
but-
market is
but
the
it be-
ultimate capitalist experience.
And what ended up
But
happening
once
was
Gorbachev comes in and starts saying, we got to change.
Perestroika. Yeah.
That's
then you
when
get-
new ideas start coming in,
And the-
people start realizing.
Yeah.
You mean we can be better than this?
Well, the preeminent example of that is you get a McDonald's in Moscow.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, literally, that's like less than a year before the coup that takes place.
Yeah, I mean, Gorbachev, he's Robespierre without the blood. I mean, he let loose something he couldn't control.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
He thought he could stuff the horse back in the barn, and he was wrong.
No.
well,
So was Robespierre.
he had the right intention, but the wrong idea,
no, I
or vice versa.
He had the intention to stay in power.
Yeah.
So his idea was,
He just didn't want to die.
well, it was think
how
about
can we tinker a little bit with this without really altering the structure?
Well, because-
and
so
think
that I
about
stay in power.
and think about his generation too, because he's coming from. It would have been unthinkable for the Soviet Union, even if you decide to call it something different, ultimately, for it to break apart because
correct, exactly.
nobody almost. I mean, sure there were still some that knew pre-revolution Russia at that time. It wouldn't have been many,
no.
but for the most part, probably 99% of the population or 95% of the population, the only thing they've ever known is the Soviet Union. That's right. So it would have been inconceivable. It would be like us, thinking about, well, we could split into 50 states. No, we couldn't. We tried that 140 years ago, 100 and however many years ago,
Yeah.
and it didn't work. So to his, again, I'm no apologist for Gorbachev, but it would have been inconceivable for him to think that there would be something besides the Soviet Union that would
No,
come.
there's no question.
Well,
He said-
and an important part of the Russian Soviet psyche at that time, though, was the system saved us from the fascists.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
it's only 40 years past
It is.
World War
It's
II.
only 40 years.
That's the same as it is from now to the 80s when we came of
Yeah.
age.
Oh, yeah. So
That's
I mean,
how. Think about that. That's really sobering.
But that train of thought is just skullduggery.
it is.
it is.
It is. There's a short-sightedness to it, but at the same time, it was a comfort that to know that what they did and what they sacrificed saved them from the
To defeat
fascists.
what literally, I mean, Hitler, and if he had dominated the way he wanted to, that would have been a greater evil than even what the Soviet Union was.
Because the intention was to basically empty it.
Exactly.
I mean, and that would have meant murdering everybody.
Yeah.
Literally, like
That solves all the problems.
it was to
Well,
completely.
that's true. It does.
I mean, it was to empty, Western Russia,
Yeah.
Ukraine, everything, and make it a place to colonize.
Lebensraum, living space.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
the
what they
idea,
were.
just like it was Hitler's notion of the British Empire. Well, we got all these places to colonize. Well, there's no place left to colonize anymore, so we're gonna have to make one, and that means feeding everybody in Eastern Europe and Western Russia into the
camps.
ovens.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have to wrap this up, guys, because we're almost we're at
Yeah.
time. So
So, but yeah, it propaganda, as we would understand it today, I think most people would agree that that is not art. That is because people don't realize that all visual media, and that's generally what we think of, but books and plays and other kinds of things as well. It will change your perceptions of things if you give it any serious consideration. And that's really what the point of propaganda and art is, to change your perceptions of something.
but they both share that.
They both share that, yes. Where propaganda goes wrong is when it no longer promotes and tries to enhance humanity for the good. And part of the problem with it both is defining what is the good.
The
I
inherent
think you-
dignity of the human person.
I think you
should
guys
always be
have
it.
always named that. All right, that wraps us up. For
Well done,
fantastic.
Francis.
Thank you.
That was a
all.
great quote.
Yeah, well,
Applause for
quite
that.
I wanted to
Yes.
go into propaganda.
Big shouts
so
to Keith Haring.
very, very good
Yes.
here. Next episode, we're going to. Actually, I'm not sure exactly. We've been known to change horses midstream occasionally, but we have scheduled to do the great directors again.
Oh yes, this is John Ford.
John Ford.
John Ford.
We got to talk about John Ford.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think John Ford's.
It's an amazing.
It's a good palate cleanse from.
So Imperator's
Blood
got a
and
look
Death
on his face
and
like he's not
guillotine.
sure who John Ford is.
No, no.
Okay,
I know
okay,
who
good,
John
good.
Ford is. I just
Okay.
don't know if he's still. I don't remember if he's still alive or not.
Oh God, no, he's not.
No. He
What did he
been dead
make?
for a while?
I don't
Every
know.
good Western of the 40s.
He did. A
yeah,
whole bunch of them.
John Wayne and John.
Tie
John
yellow
Ford worked together.
ribbon,
Yeah.
or she wore yellow ribbon.
The Searchers is
Searchers.
according to Steven Spielberg is the greatest movie ever made. That was a John Ford picture. So
Might have some research to do.
that's
John
okay.
Wayne.
And that's probably not a bad
It's
thing.
worth your time because this man was a genius when it comes to the visual
Yes, a pioneer in
film media. This man is one of the giants.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about him next episode, so be here.
We hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern, just in time for your morning commute. And every fifth Friday, we drop a special Hoopajube episode. Spread the word we are on all the major platforms, and leave us a review. That helps others find us. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com. Join us next time. Same snake time, same otter channel.